Um, Hello, Agent Collective. My name is Dan Rochon, and I know a ton of people are going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. I think we're maybe live somewhere, maybe on YouTube or Facebook. I'm not sure. Are we live, Autumn? I'm sure we are. Hello, Autumn.
Hello. How are you?
Dan, thank you for asking. Are we distributing this live somewhere?
So it's live for this Zoom, but then it's recorded or played on the podcast, on our website, on YouTube.
Podcast. Hello, YouTube. Hello, et al. Hello, Michael, Gian, Autumn, Leslie. My name is Dan Rochon. I am a real estate agent since 2007 and a recovering broker. I have had no broke months since 2008 as an agent, and I help other agents have no broke months. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to purposefully persuade without being unethical, even if you think you suck at sales. Now, I know we have a small live group here, but if you're participating, I'd love to see your pretty shiny faces on the video. And today, again, we're going to learn how to purposely persuade. So maybe you may be thinking about persuasion, about when you think about persuasion, you may be thinking, well, I'm not good at selling. Or maybe you're thinking about people don't want to be sold to. Or you may be considering, I don't want to have to compete, right? Like, or I can't compete, or, the other agent, they have the market territory and the mind share and people know them. And how am I going to be able to persuade somebody to hire me when I'm in a position where nobody knows me? Maybe that's what you're thinking, or maybe you're thinking that sales is manipulative. I know a lot of times, when I'm coaching agents, they say to me something like, yeah, but I want to be of service. I don't want to try to manipulate. I hate being salesy. Well, I'll get back. Well, if that is you, I wanted you to look at the course that you took to get your real estate license. It may be different in every single state, but in my states that I'm licensed as an associate broker in, they call the principals class the salesperson's licensing class. So literally in the title of the curriculum, they call it you're a salesperson. So we'll dive more into that here in a few minutes. Or maybe you're thinking, if I'm going to succeed, I'm going to have to lower my commissions. Or the number one thing, and I see this particularly with newer agents, and it's a challenge. If you're a new agent right now, I want you to really, really get at peace with this. And that's a lot of times I hear people tell me, I need to know everything before I take action. And the reality of real estate sales is that you will never know everything. I don't know everything. I've been doing this almost 20 years. And I learned that, new things every single day. So if I was waiting, and that's 20 years of high activity, 20 years of many years at 100 transactions a year. Not this year, unfortunately, but I've had many highly productive years in my career, and I still don't know everything. I am still learning on a daily basis. And so again, if that is you and you're waiting to know everything, you have to get comfortable with, sort of having a blind faith. And of course, that's why you participate in an agent collective. And that's why agents participate in the consistent predictable income community, which is a community that I lead at nobrokemonths.com. But the reality of it is that's why you want to get a partner, a mentor, somebody to be able to help you, guide you through that. And of course, you have to be a solution start. You have to, find solutions. Or maybe you're just thinking about, purposely persuading that, rejection sucks, and that's something that, nobody wants to be rejected. I've recently started dating after a 17-year marriage a couple of years ago. Yeah, rejection sucks. Right. But to find that partner, to find that client, to find whatever it is, whoever it is that you want to be in partnership with, you have to take shots, and you have to understand that rejection means nothing about you. Or lastly, maybe you're thinking, man, I got to freaking work 24/7 to make this real estate thing work. Yeah, I get it. It's a different life, and but I can reassure you that when you do follow a schedule and you focus on the high priority activities, that you could be able to position yourself such that you don't have to work 60 hours a week. Again, at a high level of sales, I don't work more than 50 hours a week, and guess what? I run a coaching company. I coach people one-on-one. I mentor people. I teach often. So about half of those 50 hours a week, I'm spending not doing real estate. So at around 25 hours a week, I'm able to do somewhere between 40 and 100 transactions. And so I can tell you that it can be done. If I did do 50 hours a week, I should be doing the 100 transactions. I can tell you that it can be done when you focus on the right activity. So today, what I'm going to teach you is I'm going to teach you a model of communication so that you can purposely persuade. But before I teach you that, I want to teach you your job description. All right. Because you may be thinking right now, well, how the heck can somebody do, 40 to 100 transactions in 25 hours of real estate work a week? Well, the way that somebody could do that is by focusing on the things that matter. There's 5 things in your business that matter. 5 things in your business that matter. These are the things that make you money. If it's not one of these 5 things, then yes, it needs to be done. Yet, does it have to be you to do it? Could it be your teenager? Could it be maybe a partner, a spouse that's, helping you part-time? Could it be a virtual assistant? Somebody that you can hire affordably? Could you partner with another agent to get a virtual assistant if you think, well, I can't even afford a virtual assistant right now? And by the way, if you feel that you can't afford a virtual assistant on your next closing, take 10% of that money and hire yourself a virtual assistant. Because when you focus on these 5 things, you're going to have success. And those 5 things are, write this down. Number 1, and we call this the CPI, CPI time, consistent predictable income time. So CPI time is number 1, is the lead generator. Number 2, convert those leads to meet with you. Number 3, go on appointments to get hired. And if you're a buyer's agent, show properties. Now, you don't necessarily need to show properties. I don't. And I do handle a dozen or so buyers a year personally on top of the listings that I do. And I never go out to show a home. I use a showing agent. That's something you could do as well. But regardless, so number 1 is to lead generate. Number 2 is to convert the leads to meet with you. Number 3 is to go on appointments and for the purpose to get hired and show properties. If you choose to do that, I recommend that you don't choose to do that, get a showing agent. Number 4, negotiating. Number 5, practice your scripts and role play. Know what to say, know how to say it. When you do those 5 things, and when you could position yourself to do nothing else, then you could be able to have a highly productive business where within 25 hours of work weekly, that you could do 40 plus transactions. Would you want to do 40 plus transactions if you only put 25 hours of work into it? Yeah. But guess what? It's what you do during those 25 hours that matter. Because if you don't do those 5 things as the majority of those 25 hours, then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing very, very little production, and you're going to have sporadic production. So that's something to consider as a foundation. Understand your job description. If you didn't write that down, I'm going to say it to you one more time. Write it down this time. You're listening to the podcast or watching this on a video. Lead generate, convert the leads to meet with you, go on appointments to get hired and show homes, negotiate, practice your scripts and role play. That's your job description. Now, the 1,000,001 things outside of that for you to do, that is just simply stuff that needs to be done. You can, again, find somebody to help you with that. Maybe not right this second, but what you want to do is be able to position yourself so that you can find the help and the resources so that you can focus on your 5 activities of doing your business. Now, by the way, if you want to actually build a business, there's another 5 things I'll tell you about, and then we'll go into how to purposely persuade. And the 5 things, so the first 5 things was CPI time. The second 5 things is your leverage time. When you do these second 5 things, you're building a business. These second 5 things are to recruit talented people to you. That's talented virtual assistants, that's talented staff, that's talented showing agents, that's talented agents. So number 1, recruit talented people to you. You could do so mostly by a concept that I use, which is called teach to sell. One of the reasons why I do this, one of the reasons I'll be completely transparent. Why would I take 30 minutes on my day to teach today? Because I know when I take 30 minutes to be able to help somebody else, they may be curious about how I can help them in other ways. So I use the concept of teach to sell to recruit so that I'm like, figure things out, map it out in a way that other people can understand it, teach it, and then I can get in a relationship. If I'm recruiting to EXP, I use teach to sell. If I'm recruiting to my sales team, the Greetings Virginia Sales Network, we accept referrals in the DMV area. Would take care of your clients really, really well, treat them like gold, update you throughout the process and make you look good. But whatever I'm doing to be able to attract people to me, I'm doing so through using teach to sell. So going back to the 5 leverage times, number 1 is recruit talented people to you. Number 2 is to select the right people to be in business with. Just because somebody says they want to work for you or work with you, the odds are they're probably not the right person. Okay. So to be able to get to the right person, you've got to get a clarity on who you want to be in business with. Who I want to be in business with, I'm going to give you an acronym, SCARLET. I want to be in business with self-starters, with people who are competitive, people who are assertive, people who relate well with others, people who like to learn, learning base, and people who are team players. So you can use that as a metric of who you want to be able to select. So number 1 is to recruit talented people to you. Number 2 is to select the right people to be in business with. Number 3 is to be able to train those people so that they can reach their goals. So recruit talented people to you, select the right people to be in business with, train them so they can reach their goals. Number 4 is to lead them so that they know how to think so they can reach their goals. And number 5 is to motivate them so they can reach their goals. So now I gave you CPI time. That's your job description. I gave you leverage time. That's how to build a business. I'll tell you all 10 here in one moment so you can make sure you got this, and then we'll go into persuasion. CPI time, recruit talented people. I messed that up. CPI time, lead generate, convert the leads to meet with you. Meet with people for the purpose to get hired and show homes, negotiate, practice your scripts and role play. That's your job description. Make sure you have that internalized. If you want to build a business, then you're going to have to recruit talented people to join you. You're going to have to select the right people to be in business with. You're going to have to train them so they can reach your goals. You're going to have to lead them so they know how to think to reach their goals. And you're going to have to motivate them so that they reach their goals. Those are the 10 things in business. There's one last thing I'm going to give to you. The last thing, if you had the 5 on the right, I'm holding my hands up. If you're listening to this audio, I got my right hand up with 5 fingers. I got my left hand up with 5 fingers. And if you took a rope and you put a rope around there like an infinity sign, so you put the infinity sign around the 5 to the right and the 5 to the left, and you tied that together with the last thing, which is manage your money. Those are the 11 things that you need to be able to understand in real estate. So now that we have a foundation of what your job description is and how to build a business and how to be profitable, which is by managing your money. And by the way, I look at my money weekly. Every single week, I visit my money. Typically it's on Fridays, and then typically on Sundays, I'll take a second look for the week. And I make sure I know what money's coming in. I know what money's going out. I know how much money's in the reserve. And I treat it like a business. And guess what? What you focus on expands. So because I look at my money every single week, the money grows. Okay? Because I'm going to make sure that I'm focusing on making the money become larger rather than smaller or non-existent. So now how do you purposely persuade? So I gave you CPI time. I gave you leverage time. I'm going to now teach you the CPI communication model. To purposely persuade, you have to understand that it's not about you. It's about the other person. It's about gaining their trust. I use the model called teach to sell. I already told you about that. Teach to sell is the way to be able to demonstrate to somebody else your mastery. And when you demonstrate your mastery to another person, then you're able to then gain influence and trust, or gain trust so that you can influence. So when you consider this, write this down. Here's the CPI communication model. I'm going to tie this back into teach to sell here in a second. The CPI communication model is number 1, being rapport. Number 2, ask adept questions. Number 3, actively listen. Rapport, adept questions, actively listen. So when you're in rapport, which is a connection of energy, when you ask adept questions and you actively listen, then you're able to then persuade and guide people. But how do you gain that trust? You gain the trust by using the methodology I just shared with you about communication. I'll expand on that here in a few minutes. And you use the concept of teach to sell. So what is teach to sell? Teach to sell is understanding your client's perspective the best that you can through being in rapport with them. And in the best that you can, understanding how is it that they're interpreting the world. Now, how do we interpret the world? We all interpret the world the same way, through our 5 senses. So you're listening to this, and maybe you're watching this right now, and whatever you're doing right now is you're interpreting what I'm sharing with you. You're hearing the words, and then you're assigning meaning to the words that I'm sharing. How are you assigning the meaning to the words? Through your upbringing, your education, your experience, your culture. Those all influence, because when 10,000 people watch this video, I just created it as a reality. When 10,000 people watch this video, there's going to be 10,000 different viewpoints on the video. Because I'm saying the same words, yet it's interpreted 10,000 different ways. Through people's 5 senses, and then from the 5 senses, after the 5 senses, and it gets into your brain, then there's another filter based off of your experiences, of the way that you're going to interpret what I'm sharing with you today. So teach to sell is that you understand the best of your ability, the client, the person that you're trying to persuade, your daughter, your son, your brother, your spouse. You're intending to persuade them. To be able to do so, you have to be in rapport with them. You have to be connected with their energy. And now that you're in rapport with them, then what you do is you then understand to the best of your ability how are they sensing the world. And then once you understand to the best of your ability how you're sensing the world, then you teach them how to think. Okay? Because as you teach them how to think, through demonstrating your knowledge, if you're a real estate agent and you're working with a buyer, you teach them how to think. What would you want to teach a buyer how to think? Maybe you want to teach the buyer how to think about, before you get to the home inspection, to teach them to say, Mr. Home Buyer, when you buy that home, when you write an offer that gets accepted, the day that you write that offer and you go home and you sleep at night, that day, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be anxious. You're going to have second thoughts. You're going to be tossing and turning. You're going to maybe probably have a sleepless night that day. The next morning, you're going to wake up, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to wake up, and you're going to get a text from your sister. She's going to call you a freaking idiot for buying with the interest rates where they are right now. Then, 2 days after that, you're going to do a home inspection. Now, 100% of the time, that home inspector is going to come, and they're going to be, boom, here's 100 things wrong with this property. 100% of the time. Now, if you consider what's your emotional state, your emotional state is such that, again, you're anxious. You're maybe buyer's remorse. And now the home inspector comes and slams you with 100 things wrong with that property. Now you're like, what the heck? When I have clients, not you, Mr. Buyer, who are not emotionally ready for that process, a lot of times what I find is they come and they ask for all kinds of nonsense to be repaired. And when they're asking for all kinds of nonsense to be repaired, it really is just an emotional reaction. When they see that there's a $50 fix in the property and they make that a big deal, that's not about $50 for a $500,000 property. It's about they're feeling anxious. They're feeling anxiety. So, Mr. Buyer, I want to prepare you for this before it happens. Now, let's go back to teach to sell. I just gave you an example of how to teach somebody how to think. So the framework for teach to sell is, number one, is to be able to understand their circumstance, how they're sensing the world, and then teach them how to think. I gave you an example of how you could use that in real estate so that they then feel inspired to follow your lead. Now, I had 2 weeks ago that conversation with a buyer who, again, they're working with one of my showing agents. They're at the home inspection. I give them a call after the home inspection. I say, hey, how are you feeling? And he says, man, you were so freaking right. Like, there's all kinds of things with this property, but I'm so grateful that you told me what I was going to experience, because last night, man, I was tossing and turning. And my wife and I, we actually got into it a little bit. But I'm really grateful, Dan, that you set me up to understand what the experience was going to be. I just had that conversation 2 weeks ago. So if you can imagine, when you understand their circumstance to the best of your ability, you teach them how to think, and then they'll feel inspired to follow you. That gentleman I just gave you that example of, instead of making now the home inspection a problem, now he's going to follow my advice. Now, what I've noticed in my career, I used to own a really rather large real estate brokerage. I had about 150 agents or so who worked with me in the brokers that I owned. And what I realized was 100% of the time, people would come up to me and say, Dan, I got this home inspection and everything, the buyers ask all kinds of nonsense. What do I do? Dan, I got this home inspection. The buyer's asking for all kinds of nonsense. What do I do? Dan, I got this home. And he just went over and over and over again. Well, the reality of it is that's a reactive response. And so instead of being reactive, what you want to do is you want to be proactive. You want to teach to sell. You want to be able to demonstrate to your client what are the predictable problems and how can we prevent them. Because when you share and you outline the predictable problems before they happen, by using teach to sell, then you're able to then gain trust. And when you gain trust, you're then able to influence, which is how you purposely persuade, ethically. Now, I promised you I was going to dive a little bit deeper into the CPI communication model. I have around 6 minutes here or so, and I want to use that, about 5 of those minutes to be able to talk to you a little bit more about the CPI communication model. So to be able to use teach to sell, the best way to be able to do that is to use the CPI communication model. I'll remind you what that is. Be in rapport, ask adept questions, actively listen. Rapport is a connection of energy. We are human beings, and we're housed in this human condition. Right? When you look at me, you see Dan, but you really see Dan's facade. You see my body, okay? You see this we gave it a label. We labeled this body Dan. But really, there's a spirit inside of here. There's a spirit inside of you as well. So rapport is the connectivity of our spirits, of our energy. And so when you connect with me spiritually, energetically, and I connect with you energetically, that is a deep level of rapport. How do you know when you're in rapport? You know when you're in rapport is when you can feel it. So when you could feel the rapport, it's a physical feeling inside your body. Think about a time that you really felt connected to somebody. How are you feeling physically? You felt it inside. And so as you felt that inside, that is rapport. So if you want to be in rapport with somebody, what you want to do is you want to pay attention to their energy and pay attention to your physicalness, to how do you feel inside. And when you do that, you'll be able to gain rapport. And then you ask adept questions. What's an adept questions? I was teaching this to one of my students. She thought I said dumb questions. So I want to make sure I'm clear on this. I'm saying adept questions, ADE. I can't spell it. PT, adept. Is that right? I think that's right. Adept questions, not dumb questions. An adept question is a question that's designed to be able to guide somebody on how to think. Remember, it's about teaching people how to think so that you can guide them how to think, but then you can also get to a deep level of what does that mean to you? Tell me more about that. When you achieve that, what will that do for you? So you want to chunk down in your questioning. You want to get into what are their internal desires? What does that mean for them internally, externally? When they sell a house for a big win, what can that mean to them? They just got $400,000 of a gain. Well, that could mean that they can go and buy a vacation house, buy a boat, whatever. That's all external. But what does that mean internally? That means that they could feel safe. That's an adept question, is asking the question so you can identify what is it that they're going to get from that sale? What is it that they're looking for when they buy a home? And then actively listen. So what is the definition of actively listening? What are you listening to? What are you listening for? You are listening to the energy. So remember I said rapport is that connection of energy? Well, when you actively listen, you're listening to the words, but it's not the words, you're listening to the energy. Have you ever been with a buyer before? Maybe two spouses, and the husband, you said to the spouse, you said, hey, do you want to buy this home? And the husband say, hey, yeah. And the wife says, yeah. Well, the words of that, they both said yes, but one said yes and one said, hell no. Okay. And so, and you know that by paying attention to their energy. And when you see a disconnect of energy, or you see the energy not in rapport, stop and then focus again on who they're being. Focus on your physical being, on what you're feeling, and then reset. And then guide them through so that you can discover what is it that's holding them back. These are the tools. I gave you a lot today. I gave you CPI time. I gave you leverage time. I gave you teach to sell. And I gave you the CPI communication model. In 30 minutes, that's the best that I can be able to provide you with those tools. And I hope that I was able to demonstrate it to you in a way that's going to be meaningful for you, in a way that's going to help you in your business. As you move forward within your business, I want you to understand that you've got a couple ways that you can approach this. You can learn and demonstrate models and systems like I'm teaching you today and follow a plan, or you can wing it. My recommendation to you is that you follow a plan, that you learn systems. If you want to learn systems, I've got an upcoming 5-day listing challenge that we're launching next month. You can visit www.nobrokemonths.com to be able to register. It's a free class, and you can save your seat for that class where you can learn the systems of how to take another 3 listings every single month of your career from now until however long you want to sell. So I invite for you to visit www.nobrokemonths.com to be able to learn the systems and the models of how you can be able to increase your listing inventory. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for participating. I wish that you have the best day of your life. You'd be grateful, make good choices, and go help somebody. And visit the website, www.nobrokemonths.com, to be able to learn the systems that I teach in the consistent predictable income community, to learn teach to sell, to participate in one of the free events. And I look forward to being a resource for you. God bless.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.